Today, I wanted to be more free discussion on how to be a consistent player. Welcome, everybody. I want us just discuss the situations, whatever you guys been facing with, what is you think is preventing you from being consistent. From what I saw in the chat, is just you guys there's been a lot of dancers, and I think to just be able to cover all these topics is just not possible to do during this one class. So I decided, what if we start with more of a overview, what we can discuss in general, and I'm gonna talk about the main theme is gonna be still how to be a consistent player, but later we can also dive into the other topics. We can dive into how to practice effectively, how to deal with autopilot. Yeah, I'm just gonna read all the notes from next class discussion. Yeah, so there've been a few things about how to not be tilted, or something like the low ranks tend to be demoralizing towards one another. Yeah, and maybe there was another comment such as what I'm seeing is lately, is a lot of people screaming. Yeah, how do we deal with that? I think with this topic today, we're gonna cover a lot of that, and it's just based on a lot of experience, not only as a coach but as a player as well. I've been started playing competitively. It's been around 9 or 8 years ago already when we started playing Overwatch since beta, and just in a few years later, I started coaching too. So there are a lot of strategies you can implement to just make sure you're consistent with your practice, you're consistent with your performance. Okay, yeah, hello everybody. Casual night, yeah, see everybody. Everybody's joining. Yeah, great. So let's have a discussion. Let's have more discussion format on how to be consistent. Gonna take the notes along the way, and all the notes are gonna be based on this here. This is something I'm gonna share with you later. That's sort of an article. I did write it down. It was some time ago. It was some of the stuff. It's most of the stuff. It applies to any games, not only Marvel Rivals. So that is something you guys will take advantage of later. But this presentation format, whatever notes we're gonna take, is just gonna be in here. It's gonna be more free format, not like lecture-wise. So let's start. I think the first thing we can start with is just how do you guys understand it? Yeah, what do you guys think about consistency? Just what is the biggest topic? What is the biggest thing which might influence you being consistent? What is there? What is there for you?
I think probably being present as far as what you're doing. Like sometimes if you're playing for a long time, you can zone in and you don't realize that you're just repeating the same thing over and over again. You're making the same mistake over and over again. And I think being conscious that you have to be actively thinking and things like that will help with consistency.
And I think there are a lot of things which you can do to just make sure you're able to do that. Yeah, and I think some people mentioned that they tend to autopilot. Yeah, they maybe sometimes just realize, well, maybe I've been playing really long game session and my focus is not as high. It's just really important to maintain the high focus. So I'm just gonna have those slides and I'm gonna move between the slides depending on your answers, and I'm just gonna write down notes. So what we basically said there, it was few things. I think one, yeah, the playtime. So if we're talking about I just say regarding this, because we tend to autopilot sometime, I think playtime is gonna be the most important. I'm gonna write down playtime here. Another thing can be setting goals, okay? Making sure those are productive, and this is just aligns with effective practice. Yeah, making sure we practice effectively. I have this little thing in there, this little graph. I can just explain that, and can just use this image here. How it works, usually, a lot of times for if we compare two players, let's say there's one top 0.1% and an average player. Usually what happens is an average player, they tend to have volatile graphs. So there's a big difference between your off day and a good day. And because of that, it might influence your consistency a lot. You might even have the graph. I don't think it's the most accurate. I just made it today, and maybe it can be more accurate just depending on how the time goes. Just over time, the more you play, might notice that if you don't have a good state of mind, your graph might drop even more. You might have even more losses. But the general thing a lot of players have is the difference between the top player and just an average player is that the graph is more volatile for somebody at the top 0.1% because they have a good day and they have an off day. There's some difference. Let's say the consistency, it's not like everybody is playing perfect. I don't think anybody can play perfect. It's just that when there's an off day, they can handle it in a better way. And during the good day, they also getting a lot out of that. So your idea a lot of times shouldn't be to chase the exact wins and losses too, but make sure we able to increase your skill ceiling. We want to make sure that it's constantly improving over time. Yeah, so maybe if there are more consistent goals, so I just wrote it down here, setting goals, yeah, is going to be really, really important. I would say to got into goals, how to get the most advantage out of that and making sure the goals are effective for you guys. What do you think is the first key factor to be more consistent? What do you think would be the most beneficial for you when you're setting your goals? What's your opinion? You can just write down your answers in chat, pretty much. Let's have a free discussion. Or maybe you can answer here if you guys want to unmute. Let's talk about that. Anybody? Yeah, I see. Lock in and only if you hear us. That's a good one. Yeah, it's a good one, I think. Yeah, setting goals, play them often. So consistency, yeah, consistently playing the same characters. Yeah, exactly. Any other thoughts?
I think when you're setting goals, you probably have a big overarching goal. For example, like, I want to get to GM1, right? That's my big overarching goal. And then you need, like, some small goals that help you get there.
Yeah, exactly. So there has to be a big goal, right? But because the goal is too big sometimes, it might be complicated to reach right away. Basically, to make an analogy, we cannot jump on top of the mountain instantly. It's just not possible. We need to climb that mountain step by step. Yeah, we just need to think, okay, what is that best step I can make in order to go a little bit higher? And then the best step next, and just continue with those steps, constantly identifying what is the best thing you can do. Smart goals. Yeah, smart. Yeah, smart goals. If you guys know that, you can actually Google about those, but those are really good. If you're able to implement those, I think this is nice. I'm going to keep it simple here. So I'm just going to write down your goals should be simple and concise. Let's say that. Actually, let me just write it down for the sake of the format. Simple and concise goals are the most important. Now, I think another, because we just want to keep our goals meaningful, something you can have is just have a consistent positive goal in mind. What I mean by positive is you're not exactly focusing on the wins and losses, but you thinking about something what gets you value no matter what. Just might be, for example, you having fun, or you can also have a goal of practicing something. That's what I'm gonna call positive. Yeah, positive goal. It's not that, oh, you're happy. It's constant improvement on something. Positive goals. Okay, let me see. Yeah, this is really good. Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. If you guys are able to break it down this way, this is really nice. If any of you want that as well, I think this is nice. I can actually just put it in our notes. I really like that. Smart goals. Okay. Yeah, exactly. All of that, guys, all of that terminology and just the stuff learned based on the what we discovered in normal sport as well. It's really applicable to all those games. It's really applicable. Yeah, I'm gonna make the slides a little bit bigger so everybody is gonna be able to see it. I will keep it this format because I will write depending on your answers. Practicing callouts with a positive mindset for today's game session. Yeah, you can do that, but it's just if it's not influencing your performance. And actually, this one, should you calm? Yeah, should we do that? I think it's another topic. We can talk about that more. Let's think. If there's anything else in the goals, because I have, again, this is material I will present to you. You can read it. I'm just making the presentation, making the notes based on that. And in here, I'm thinking, based on those notes, maybe I would add something like VOD reviews. When you have the goals, if you're practicing something, if you're able to VOD review and just check your progress and assist yourself with writing goals, and just what you did well, what you need to work on. I think it's really nice. How to VOD review, that is another topic. And it's gonna take me around maybe 30, 40 minutes to go over. But we can go over more in depth on that later. Actually, I'm just gonna do it this way. When we're gonna write down the notes, I'm gonna highlight something, what we might discuss later. All right. Yeah, let's continue. So about your effective practice, since we're on this slide, what do you think? Playtime, setting goals, is there anything else what could be important? I'm sorry if I'm missing sometimes some answers been made and the actual, there was a channel, specific channel asked the questions, but yeah, I just want to have a conversation too. Is there anything else what we can add to our effective practice?
We're trying to get out the comfort zone.
Get out of the comfort zone is so, yeah, how do you understand that?
Maybe usually we try, maybe we just play doing the easiest things, but that are not the correct action to do. We have to try to do something that maybe is more difficult, but maybe more.
Could I give you an
more correct.
example of that?
Yeah, sure.
An example would be, so last night we had some coach scrims, and the easy thing, we were getting like our team was getting dove a lot, and the easy thing was to counter the dive by using Penny, using Namor, using people that had good CC and shutting them down.
Okay.
But the other option is actually to counter their dive is we dive them. And that's a bigger shift for me.
Proactive, yeah.
That would be a bigger shift for me because I'm not a huge diver. So today, for example, I was working on Hulk and seeing about diving and getting in there because that was something that I wasn't able to do to get out of my comfort zone. I wasn't going to do it in a practice scrim like that, but now I can try that, and I will have that in my repertoire moving forward.
I like that. Yeah, I really like that. And I think this is one of the most important things, to just get out of the comfort zone. I think this is exactly what it means together. Making mistakes. Michael says, yeah, he said that I got to go in and try to experiment, do something. Yeah, with this kind of idea, we just need to play more and see what works, what not. You don't need to just rely on the same strategy all the time too. You can see what works, and a lot of times, I think there's also another topic, it's about more mentality. Otherwise, if you not feeling confident, if you feel frustrated when getting comp and practicing, there's another story too. But yeah, we can talk about that more. I think two of those things, proactive and making mistakes, are probably the biggest one. How do you feel about seeing goals to climb to a certain rank given the nature of the matchmaking? Can you give me an example? So what do you mean by that? I think I don't fully understand the question. So it's just, do you feel about seeing goals to climb to a certain rank? There are some goals. Yeah, okay. If I understand correctly, you can have certain goals depending on what rank you want to reach. Yeah, that's how you phrase it. Yeah, I think that makes sense. You could do that, but it's just also difficult when you playing the game. It's just difficult for you to identify if you're sitting in front of your monitor or just playing. It's difficult for you to identify what you have to do to reach certain rank. I think it requires a lot of hours of analyzing the games and see what works, what not. That's what I've been doing with Overwatch students before, back in the days. I've been watching thousands of hours of VODs, and I was seeing, okay, what works the best, what kind of goals we need to pursue in order to reach gold, or what kind of goals we need to reach plat or diamond. And that is the same stuff you could do, but then you also not end up playing. But I think it's fine if you just do simply, like we mentioned here, simple and concise goals. What is the best next step I'm gonna make? Yeah, what is, just write it down. What is the best next step is gonna be for me? Because you can clearly see it. You never can see the pass. You can never see the top of the mountain when you're coming from the roll ground somewhere. Yeah, it's harder. Let's say it's harder to identify the exact specifics of how the pathway looks like, where you're gonna go and such, but you can clearly see what's in front of you. You just gotta climb step by step. I think it's gonna be important. something like solo queue to plat, that would be like an end goal. So you want to be careful. I think when you align your goals towards the certain rank, it's not always consistent because some of the people, they get frustrated. I would even say that it's just in general the nature of the humans. When you're losing more games than you, if your goal is to win, then you're gonna get frustrated because you're not achieving your goal. But if you're winning, then it's gonna be opposite. You're gonna be really motivated to play, and it's gonna be easier for you to climb. But it's not as consistent. Yeah, if we're talking about consistency, we need always to be getting value out of something, and that would be having fun, or maybe just something you practice. That's why effective practice is so crucial. I actually gonna, because this one here, it's in a setting goals. Maybe we can even create a separate category for this one. I think this one is really important. When you're mastering your role, when you're playing the exact characters you want to play comfortable with, you adding value to your long-term results too. It's just a lot of times, and I noticed that in the sessions too, a lot of times people would swap based on what their teammates tell them. Yeah, maybe they tell them, can you go name or can you go this? But it's not your comfort pick. Yeah, it's not something you want to practice for the long term. And the question is, how you gonna, is it gonna be making the games winnable for you in the long term? Maybe short term, sure, you go on the character, what they ask you to play, but in the long term, is it gonna bring you more value? And usually the answer is the performance is gonna matter more compared to the perfect comp. Now, let's say we're trying to get the perfect comp, yeah, the meta comp. Meta comp, while matters, you get some percentages of value, but is it what's gonna matter more compared to your performance in the long term? A simple goal like
So-
getting. Oh yeah, any questions?
I was just going to make a comment on that. Back to our coaching that was last night, our coaching scrim. I played a character that I'm okay at, not my best character. To get to mastery, yes, agreed that I should be trying to use someone like Strange and master them completely. But Strange is banned, so I'm playing Penny, who I'm not nearly as good as I feel with Strange. However, the learning that I got in that scrim was so valuable that when I go back to plat lobbies, I'm just wiping the floor with people and I'm saving
Yeah.
our supports with the tips
Mhm.
that I got in that scrim. So
Mhm.
I think it's give and take, right?
Yeah, no, this makes total sense to me, and I think especially if you do enjoy playing the characters, it definitely, I'd say, of course, in theory, and that's what's been in Overwatch. Maybe you have the perfect meta character pool and such. It's just you getting more value. Usually, the long term. But I think what matters the most is your comfort picks, and if you actually enjoy playing. So if you're comfortable, and it's what I understand based on after the scrim, you feel more comfortable on the certain character, and because of the knowledge you got, I think it's fine to just pick the character based on that, but pick the character not because I'm forced to, but watching what situation gives you and apply the character. Just pick the character. It might be, I usually like, when we picking the character, depending on situation, I like to look at two variables. It's my team composition, another is the map, and the third one actually it can be enemy team comp. So this way you will never mess up on what character you're picking, because you always look at the big picture. Because some people, there might be situations where we tend to tunnel vision on something. Maybe they have a Spider-Man, and then there's a really good Spider-Man, we're trying to punish Spider-Man. Yeah, everybody's chasing the Spider-Man. Maybe he's Necros playing in our lobby. Yeah, let's try to kill him. But then, because we sometimes missing out on the big picture, might be difficult for you to exactly achieve the goal with your what your team com is about. Yeah, and I think you mentioned that jacked up. Yeah, you mentioned that you have been saying, yeah, you've been telling about the strategy, what do you need to do versus divers. Yeah, like Penny's really good and this such. Yeah, and if we understand those big goals, what our team comp does and what the map allows us to do versus the enemy comp, then I think it's really good. It's really good for the long-term value and just understanding the big picture. It's not the easiest though, but yeah, it's something we can do. A simple goal like getting to the next division is fine. Yeah, exactly. If we're just talking about the rank-wise, but again, rank should be consequence of your certain skills. I highly suggest, because again, the rank is not the consistent variable. It's just based on this graph. Even the best players, they win more. They're the top 10 ladder. Maybe another day they're top 100, and same happens to the average player. But what average player is doing a lot of times is, because they lose some games, they tend to, there's some problems, might be some problems with your setting goals, with how do you just push your limits, maybe some character mastery, your playtime, and it's just mentality wise. Even I think that's the biggest one, because we losing, we getting frustrated, and then you lose even more because of it. It's not that, it's just when you lose a queue a lot of times, it's just might be we need to take a break. And okay, I think, by the way, we pretty much finished this effective practice slide. I would like to go towards this first one, mentality, and take a few notes on this one. Let's just talk about this one a little bit more. And there's a picture. I used the picture. It's going to be in the article as well. So this is what it looks like, usually. When you're trying to practice, you have a lot of hard work to do, and a lot of people don't see it sometimes. And there's a lot of time dedicated, there's a lot of effort and patience, habits, discipline, and just everything we had to give up. This one, be careful with that, I think, but if you just phrase it in a way, because it's about your priorities, yeah, because sometimes we have to prioritize something over other things. That is something we want to recognize. Every time we failed, and just we need to have this urge to keep trying, even though we're making sometimes we're losing. Yeah, when we're making mistakes, we're trying to push limits, we're trying to be proactive, making mistakes, but we gotta keep trying. And success, it feels a lot of times when you compare yourself with others, it feels just this way. You see this guy reached like top level, but a lot of people, they don't see this. They don't see this, and this is the most important. This is the most important, to pay attention to how hard you're working, but make sure it's enjoyable too. Love the picture. Yeah, I used it. I can give you the reference. It's just, it's not mine, but yeah, I think it's good for our presentation. It's not exactly made by me, but yeah. Hey, watching movies instead of watch pro gameplay, that's what I gotta do more. Just make sure it's enjoyable. And actually, guys, mentality-wise, if we're talking about the mentality, what do you think is the most important? If I'm in a good state of mind, what does it mean for you? What is the number one thing which can help you to be consistent? What's your opinion? There are 0 notes yet on this. Let's write those down. If you guys want to unmute and speak, let's do that. We have an open conversation.
I'm not gonna lie, I didn't understand the question.
Yeah, I just see a few people typing as well. I'm gonna wait. I see I'm Cruz and Mike Lee. Yeah, Mike Lee, if you want to unmute as well, and ask the question. Yeah, so the first one, just in my opinion, it's making sure the game is enjoyable. Something what I talked about before. And if you enjoy doing stuff, and just write it down, enjoy the process. Yeah, enjoy the process of your gaming or maybe something else is really the most important. If you ask any esport player, or I think just maybe even going back to traditional sport, maybe there's a football player or maybe a basketball player, if you ask them, why do you play the game? Yeah, do you enjoy playing the game? They will answer yes, 100% most of the time. Yeah, there's gonna be really hard to play at the higher tier if you're just not enjoying the process. Perfect. Is there anything else? What do you think? Is there anything else what comes to mind? You can write it down. Because enjoying the process might be number one, but what about the other things? Any thoughts? Yeah, and you guys can unmute and talk. It's fine.
I have a question.
Mhm.
So what can I do to make the process more enjoyable?
What do you think you can do? It would be a good discussion. What do you think?
Stop playing ranked. I really don't know.
Stop playing ranked, but what do you do instead?
Watch YouTube videos of other people playing.
Watch YouTube, okay. It might be something else. It's fine if you recognize, if I'm stopping doing something, just recognize what you want to do instead. Because if you have a lot of things in mind you don't want, And if we don't do something about that, then we're gonna just end up living with those. It's just like in real life. If we don't know what we want, then we'll end up with the things we don't want. So yeah, sure, we can watch YouTube, we can watch something else, but it's just later. I think the more you do this, the more we ask ourselves, what do we find enjoyable? Then we can try to do. We'll start recognizing what we can do edible. And if we're talking about the game practice, yeah, maybe we can also find something we can do within the practice makes it enjoyable, such as play with your friend, or maybe play with one of your teammates just from this server. Might be anything. It might be even listening to music, stuff like that. I think it's small stuff, but all of it adds up together. I think if we can make the process more enjoyable, I think it's really nice. I like to do PAX community games when taking a break from ranked. Yeah, exactly. So playing with your friend, why not? I think that sounds like a good one. It's just PAGs in general. Yeah, we can have this in brackets. PAGs, why not? Might be something else too. Any other thoughts? I will read the answers. Yeah. Taking breaks is quite essential. I'm just reading what you guys said. Yeah. Taking breaks is really important. The second thing, the most important, in my opinion as well, is when you're practicing, it's just mentality-wise, is trying to stay positive. But again, this one I want to elaborate. What that means is we want to keep our attention on the things which are going to give you beneficial outcome in your games no matter what. So it just aligns with our goal settings here, positive goals. So there has to be something what you can get value out of. And again, it's just what you practice. So practice X goal, or maybe it's having fun. Or maybe it's also might be just playing with your friends can also be a goal. Taking a break when you're not having fun, yeah, exactly. I think might be quite big one. Taking breaks so important. It's just making sure that we have good mental this way. Why not? What do you think can influence our mentalities? What about in real life? What can influence something regarding the gaming in general? The people we have around us? I like that. I really like that. Yeah. So it's just supportive environment. Yeah. Exactly. I think. Yeah, let's write it down actually. So if you're trying to enjoy the process, playing with your friend, just let's say a supportive environment. That's what I tell people as well. A lot of times when we have a session, we have coaching session, a lot of people sometimes cases when the students tell me there are certain friends and they are just maybe being toxic sometimes, maybe they are just not supporting me in my journey. And this is a big factor, I think. It's like in real life. If you have a supportive environment, then you're able to grow. Supportive circle of friends, family, friends, community. Yeah, let's say community is a good word. Yeah, exactly. And you can find it even here, like in academy. I think that's why it's really nice. I really like the academy sort of thing because we can have the surrounding where people are able to support each other, help each other, and at the same time we give value. We learn something new. Yeah, exactly. The people. How tired you are? I'm thinking where to put it. So I have a few slides, and there are quite a lot of those. Let's just put this in playtime. Let's say take breaks, yeah? Because I never put it on the slides. What if you feel like your friends are carrying you and you aren't growing? It's a good question. It's depends on your goals again. If you just enjoy playing with your friends, if the ultimate goal is let's have fun, I think this happens. But if the goal is I'm trying to be a better player, you might find doing something else. Usually, if you play in solo queue, I think that is where you will be able to push your limits. If I'm pushing my limits, I think it's easier to do while solo queue. You don't want to just play 24/7, sit in front of your PC all day and this sort of stuff. I don't think it's healthy. Actually, a lot of recent sessions, we had a discussion with people that they need to play less. And after they play less, they got better results. Why? Because your focus is increasing. If you play 2-3 hours with a high focus, it's going to be much more beneficial compared to playing 6-7 hours but with low effort, with low focus. You need to have high focus. Again, I'm making the notes along the way, whatever you guys say, so feel free to message if there's anything else what comes to mind. But yeah, would playing other games that are similar when you need to break from rivals help us exactly? Really depends. I think if my goal is to be a better player, I would rather take a break and do something else in other workspace. A lot of people treat taking breaks, watch YouTube, maybe sit in front of a PC, but if you take breaks and do something outside of your workspace, it's going to be much more beneficial. Your mind is going to reset faster. So I don't think it might be the best to take the break in the other game. If you're treating it as a helper for you to regain your focus, just go outside, it's going to be better. Touch grass. I guess the experience makes me enjoy the process, meeting people in game, joining teams, and having teammates. Yeah, exactly. I think this is really nice. If you have this and it's helping you to achieve your goal, it's really nice, in my opinion. Okay, let me see if there's anything else. Actually, on this first slide, we might add something about in real life, and it's something a lot of us forget. And we mentioned taking breaks and such, but I would just simple, boring stuff, but important. It's important to regain your focus if you have that. So it's your sleep, how much you're sleeping. It's your exercise as well. Even just meditation, but treat it as a you meditate, you don't have any sort of distractions around you. Maybe there's no phone, maybe there's no just digital stuff. You can just be with your own thoughts and sit there. This is the main point, in my opinion. Meditation can stare some just something. Reading, yeah, reading can be, but it's also not exactly it just can be as a good break though, I think. But yeah, I'm just thinking about something else there too, just when you can be with your own mind sometimes. Yeah, you got a meditation at least. Food, yeah, exactly. Food, nutrition rich food, again, boring, but it's needed. The most essential is this. I think this comes first for sure. Okay, yeah, is there anything else what can help us, our mentality, what can help to just feel more in control of our games, maybe be more just better players? What's your opinion? Anything else to add? Whatever you guys are gonna say there, let's add there to our slides. You guys can unmute as well and talk. Yeah, I see Kid Maniac tapping in chat. Okay, there's anything else to add? Anybody else, by the way, guys, don't hesitate. You can just unmute and talk. That's fine. I see the
Yeah, I was talking, but I was muted.
Oh, okay.
So I think also have some self-awareness. For me, it's important to understand and have clear in my mind that I'm the only player who can make the difference to reaching a victory, something like that. Or also understand maybe for someone the Dunning-Kruger effect, just realize that you don't know something and maybe you don't know how and how to know things correctly. This is
I like that. I like that idea. So you have this criticism, and at the same time you just thinking about what's under my control. Yeah, you thinking, okay, I'm the one who can carry this lobby. Yeah, I'm the one who can make the difference potentially. Maybe not short term, right? In this game, sometimes it's not possible. Yeah, sometimes you get unwinnable games. But in the long term, what I can make the difference with is maybe my skills, maybe am I having fun or not? And this is something what we can control in the long term. Yeah, focusing on what we can control might be really important. And I think some of you guys already mentioned, and there was good comment. Let me just read that. Yeah, focusing what's in the control of their games helps them a lot. I think there was last comment in next class discussion. Yeah, exactly. Stuff like that. Okay. By the way, I'm reading the last comment, and they mention about learn to breathe. I know it sounds weird, but when we begin to become tilted, our breathing becomes erratic and uncontrolled. This one is good because when Generally speaking, when we get tilted, what happens with us is our heart rate is gonna increase usually, and this is what I notice with other players. So if they have a recording of them playing, maybe their face, just their movements with the mouse, your aim becomes more jittery. You start to be more nervous. It's more anxious. You're just moving from left to right, and yeah, it's just you breathing as well. Your heart rate is really increased. So what you can do is, I just call it lazy breathing. You can simply inhale and exhale, but do it as slow as possible, as lazy as possible. And it can help to calm your mind, because if you do that, then your heart rate is going to decrease. So your actions can actually influence your body and your emotions in a way too. That's why the stuff about meditation is really nice. If you guys know a lot about meditation, you can calm yourself right in the moment. You can do that lazy breathing 3 times and it's gonna be much better. That's the real stuff basically. Is there anything else? So focusing on what we control, we just said that staying positive in real life, enjoying the process. Is there anything else? By the way, I'm thinking about this. I will make another presentation as well, so I'm gonna highlight that like I did with those topics. Yeah. I see 2 people typing. You can unmute as well, and if you want to talk, you can talk. Yeah, I'm gonna wait for you guys to finish. I see you typing. Okay. Reen07031 and Kid Maniac. Yeah, it's fine. Okay, I'm just gonna continue. Meanwhile, what I would add in here is just for the mentality, making sure we're staying confident with our process, with just how we're playing, and I think the biggest boost you can have is confidence. If you're staying confident, try to do things which you're afraid of. If I'm afraid of something, for example, I get nervous when playing ranked games. To fix that problem, I can actually play ranked games more and realize that I am fine. Nothing happened. It's not like your friends are gonna leave you, your relatives not gonna hate you for this. It's just a game, and the more you do it, the easier it's gonna be. The easier you will feel with that sort of stuff. Think of yourself as a hitman who is determined and focused on a certain task. If he enrages, gets angry, he immediately is out of focus. You can do that if it helps, I think. You can have this associated with something if it helps you. Because when we're reaching our goals, some people have this sort of picture, maybe something helps motivate them and such. Maybe you have a good player who motivates you. You want to strive to become like them. It's good. But be careful with comparing yourself to others. Compare yourself with yourself. You get it, and that's what we mentioned about the goal setting here. If I know what kind of best step I can make right in the moment, it's gonna be easier. And think about it this way: you only one who knows all the tools you got right in the moment. So if I'm making the next step, I'm climbing the top of the mountain, I have my own tools, but the other guy, they have the other tools. Yeah. So maybe get to this topic. Yeah, to reach the success, to just reach this here, you have your own tools and they have theirs. And when we're trying to compare ourselves to others, then it's not effective because you don't know their tools, you don't know what they're using, but you know how to use yours. So it'd be really good. Okay, let's continue. Is there anything else to add in this? I think we mentioned pretty much everything regarding mentality. This is nice. Effective practice, quite a lot of stuff too. I would maybe only add, when we're setting goals, is focusing on increasing your skill ceiling. So think how to, instead of focusing on wins and losses, yeah, we can also connect it to our previous notes. If I'm focusing my skill ceiling, this helps a lot. It's just, I'm thinking how to get there. Yeah, thinking, okay, what I can do today to just be better. Maybe it's, if we're talking about the rank wise, just maybe skill set wise, yeah, that's what you can keep an eye on. And your skill ceiling is always going to be, depending on the day, you're going to have the different results. Yeah, like with this graph, you can have a little bit higher value, sometimes it's slightly lower. That's fine. Okay, any questions, by the way? Any questions about those 2 slides so far, or is everything clear? I see Alpha Wolf is typing. If you want to unmute, you can answer. Yeah, you can ask the question here too. Yeah, all right. I think We can move on the next slide. So far, we got the mentality and effective practice, but just any other big stuff. What do you think can influence being consistent as well? Maybe there's something else we can add, just bigger value. What do you think about mechanics? Is it influencing your consistency? Do you have good mechanics, good kind of warm-up routine, this sort of stuff? What's your opinion? Yes? What's your routine, Kid Maniac?
Oh.
Can you share it? Oh, yeah?
I think
Yeah,
I think yes, because if you're not like playing a certain way or playing the same way consistently, could influence like how you're performing. So you just stay consistent. I don't recommend changing up play styles or changing up your settings or anything. Use what you are comfortable with for a long extended period of time and get comfortable using that in order to stay consistent.
Makes sense to me. If you're able to push your limits and stay proactive, make mistakes, but at the same time, you don't rely on linear decisions, same strategy. I made a separate slide for this to write down some of the notes. It's going to be really important. Good example can be you taking the same flying route, or you just taking maybe the same more passive way of playing. You can just play in the back sometimes a bit more. Just try to see what else works. I'm just going to say, okay, push limits, be important note for us in here. Let's say that. We're going to simplify high risk versus low risk, and it's just low value versus high value play. Yeah, you always gotta try to determine what that means for you exactly in a moment, so you can decide what to do next. Your decisions are not linear. You're always thinking ahead a little bit more, and it will be easier to make a decision. Okay, let me read what the Kid Maniac says. Warming up before going into comp, like doing TDM or practice range. Are you doing do matches, or I'm just curious? Yeah, because if you guys don't know, Kid Maniac is really high ranked. He is GM1 at the moment, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Really, really good. Practicing range or quick play for 15-30 minutes helps me feel ready and confident to play comp. Yeah, exactly. Sometimes listening to music helps calm me too. Yeah, I like that too. Something we mentioned. Just about making the process enjoyable. Let's actually write it down. Music. I'm gonna write down with a question mark because it's not for everyone. You definitely need footsteps. You need to hear stuff. But if it's influencing your performance more, mental-wise, by the way, it was the same case with me. I was playing music. I had music on the background all the time. When I was playing competitively, in Overwatch, and I've been top 10 ranked, I had the music in the background, not really loud, but there was a music, and it helps me to just hype me up, basically. Yeah, it really helped me. Okay, let's write down this. I like the routine. Okay, so we got the warm-up, yeah? The warm-up is just for the mechanics. 15-20 minutes. And it's gonna be before your game session. And what I recommend to do, what Kid Maniac says there, they play TDM. What is that? Is you play the match versus the real player. Yeah, it's called, in Marvel Rivals, it's called Do Match. There's a game mode for that, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, you can just play versus the other players. And because you're getting used to situations under pressure, this helps your warm up faster. It's not like we have to warm up your positioning or game sense a lot of times. We just need to warm up your decision making. Yeah, you need to warm up your mechanics. You can warm up your decision making or positioning. I used to warm up in practice range. Now I just do matches before comp. Exactly. Practice range is good, but the thing about the practice range is that bots are not shooting you back. Bots are not applying pressure in your back, and it becomes difficult for that reason. Yeah, it becomes difficult to just practice certain aiming styles as well. By the way, in the Doom matches, you can also not only think how do you shoot stuff, how do you align the shots, but you can also use cover. You can also think about the abilities and other stuff, but it's just there's some positional stuff you can involve in that as well, like peek shooting. Yeah, I can peek shoot around the cover, and this way it's going to be more productive. Yeah, love Doom match, and you can also use this to learn new characters. Yeah, I like that. Exactly. Quick play, again, quick play might be good if it's your routine, which helps you, sure. But the thing with quick play is you don't have as frequent duels compared to Doom match. So if your goal is to just warm up, then Doom match is better. if you're playing quick play for the sake of maybe you have a certain routine established, I have the routine where, okay, I play a couple of quick plays and it just helps me with my mentality, and this is what influences me the most. Sure, I can maybe, if it's a routine for me, like a player, I can play a couple of quick plays. It's the same thing with maybe players in the sport. Yeah, players in sport, they have certain routine before the match to just help them going. That's why you sometimes see them doing those rituals, yeah, doing certain things just before they do the action on the field. Yeah, if you watch football, you watch something, anything else, really, you always see that. Let me read. Using them to learn Baki, Venom, and Star-Lord. Yeah, do match is good for that. Yeah, exactly. Warm-up. Let me read the Kid Manic. What else you mentioned? Yeah, so the music, warm-up. Is there anything else you do aim practice-wise? Do you do any aim trainer? I'm just curious. Might be helpful. When I was new to FPS games, using aim training helped me for start, like Aim Labs, Aim Beast, for walks, but playing the game itself helped me. Yeah, and this is what I also experience with most of the students. We basically get the most value out of the practicing real game scenarios. Why? Because we're getting used to all the models in the game. That's one. We practice hitting shots right there in the game too. We're just getting used to all the coloring. Position-wise is also important. Decision-wise is again important. You're practicing all of your aiming in the game. It's actually, I'm gonna make a presentation on that later too, just how to be good with aiming. You can definitely do the masterclass on that, but it's quite big stuff. If I am trying to align my shots, a lot of times it's not that I'm not good mechanically, it's just our decisions and it's our positioning most of the time. Okay. I do eye reflex video on YouTube to actually get my brain into focus. Oh, interesting. Yeah, some people do that. I actually know a few pro players as well, like Overwatch League level. If you guys, Sinatra, he's playing Valorant, and he's been Overwatch League player as well. He's been doing Osur before the game. And I think it was mostly like a ritual for him, but he was also getting used to all that movement because there's a lot of chaotic movement in the games like Marvel Rivals and this Overwatch. It's really important. Also, is basically that one aim lapse. Yeah, also might be helpful. I never done it. I actually never done it. I just know it helps too. But how it works is, yeah, all your reflexes make you just moving the eyes in left and this sort of stuff. Also, it's basically. Okay, I'm gonna write down the note here. Aim practice. Okay, so aim practice is just how we effective with that, in my opinion. I just have a note on your warm-up, and I would not spend too much time on aim trainers. Yeah, I think the most common problem I see, a lot of people, they spend a lot of time in aim trainers, which can be okay, but it's only okay if you fix in a specific detail about the aiming, I think. Most of the time, you're trying to maybe be good at flex from right to the left, or maybe there's something else in specific too. But mostly, general aim, I really recommend to just do the games, yeah? So avoid spending too much time in aim trainers. Yeah, just based on what we mentioned so far. Okay, I'm gonna read the chat. Screams custom game packs with communities help me warm up my game sense or comms. Yeah, I like that too. A lot of people coming, it just you can have the sense of where to put your attention. That's why it helps you. That's another topic to discuss. If you put your attention in the right place, then it's going to be easier for you to aim. It's going to be easier for you to do stuff on the field. I think the last comment I would make here is to just add the settings. If we have the consistent settings, then it also adds up to our consistency. Because a lot of players, they switching settings way too much. Just make sure your settings are staying the same. You're not always searching for the perfect sensitivity, adjusting your, I don't know, monitors or just a lot of this other peripherals. You don't need to, unless there's like a massive upgrade from, let's say I need to upgrade from 30 FPS to 60. This massive, or 60 FPS to 150, yeah. So you're getting like 144 Hz monitor, for example, versus 60 Hz. This is massive. I would definitely be careful with switching settings too much. Can I write it down to avoid switching settings too much? Is there anything else? What do you think, guys? Maybe you can just unmute and talk as well. I think for me, seems 3 main points, but is there anything else to add? Yeah, I see Reen is typing, Chime. Yeah. If you guys want to add something, don't hesitate. You can unmute as well. You know what? One point came to mind to me as well is if I'm doing aim practice, if I'm just trying to land the shots, because we mentioned that, well, we want to be consistent with our practice. I think the most important is try to do this. So yeah, basically, let's say if I'm going somewhere, if I'm playing, this is practice range. If I'm gonna play the game, then I can try to practice my trigger discipline. I can, instead of just hitting the shots and constantly holding your fire, I can try to be consistent with just making sure my crosshair is in the right place. I think who might be a good example? Let me think. Maybe Magneto, maybe Hawkeye, it doesn't matter. I think maybe Hala. You can just consistently practice landing all of the shots. So I see a lot of players that would do this. They hold their fire, yeah, they just hold, shoot, yeah, and then they miss something. Yeah, just for representation, I move the mouse left and right, but I can just try to shoot, and so point the crosshair and click. Point the crosshair and click. It takes some time, but the more you do it, the faster you're gonna be. Mouse sensitivity converter, yeah, this helps as well. Yeah, if you guys play any other games, I think the mouse converter can be helpful. But yeah, you can practice your trigger discipline just for the sake of consistency too. So instead of constantly holding my fire, yeah, I do this: move, shoot, move, and shoot. Yeah, try to be accurate. Just an example. Okay, I'm gonna go back to the presentation. Okay, is there anything else? Yeah, let's leave the game too, so I'm not losing the frames. Okay. Yeah, I think regarding the mechanics is pretty much it. I don't think there's anything else to add. I'm just gonna write down additionally trigger discipline. It's gonna be good enough. Okay, I think the last slide I didn't talk about is be strong in many aspects of the game, but this one is more just about everything else, what I mentioned before. And in here, some of the notes maybe, if you're trying to be strong in many aspects of the game, is just remove plays which rely on inconsistent factors. So it's thinking, okay, regarding, yeah, so it's more about this one. Do not rely on decisions and same strategy, but also maybe we can also add thinking about the topics. Yeah, what kind of topics we need to improve on. Maybe it's mechanics, or maybe it's your positioning, and just make sure you're not only relying on one of those, but rely on multiple. Yeah, so let's just say maybe there's a player who is really good at aiming, yeah, but you just gotta also try to practice some other stuff, like your position, like your decisions too. Yeah, what do you guys think? Is there anything else? I think we mentioned pretty much everything. It's a lot on surface level, but yeah. Is there anything else? What, maybe any questions about being consistent? Just how to be consistent. Maybe you can address that. Write down the notes about that too. Yeah, if there's anything, I would be glad to cover that. You can also unmute and let's chat. But so far, we mentioned everything. I think for the most part, that's been it. The time of day you play matters too, and your personal environment is a good one. Yeah, this is a good one. The time of the day and just where. Yeah, if you don't have your own equipment, it's gonna be harder. Yeah, you're not gonna have the most consistent time of your life. Yeah. I'll just set it to playtime. It's just how we spend our playtime here, I think. Why not? Let's set it. So I need to drop. Thanks, coach. Yeah, all good. Yeah, we're gonna end soon, but if there are any other notes, then we can add those, and then I will share this presentation with you. And what I'm gonna share is it's my article. It's gonna be what we discussed, but it's gonna be more in depth. So if you guys want to read it, feel free to do so as well. I will post it. I'll post it in the notes later. Okay, let's write down time of the day, and we can also have this. Just think about personal environment. Just gonna say environment is good enough. Any final questions? I know we're not covering the gameplay today, but I think it might be one of the most important things so far. Just to cover how to be effective with your practice, and we're gonna dive deeper later into setting goals and just how to water view and the other stuff. But yeah, if there's anything else just about this topic, any questions, let me know. Okay, Kid Maniac is typing, and Mikely. Yeah, I can wait. I think so far That's been pretty much it. How to deal with problems? What kind of problems? So is it
No, not tilt, but I mean in more pragmatic. For example, I have a problem in the game. How I can deal with this problem? Just for a more concrete example, I have a big problem with Wolverine. How I can solve my problem with Wolverine that one-shot me every time? When I have this kind of problems, which is the correct approach?
Yeah, I think the most correct approach is this one. So here we don't want to rely on the linear strategy the most. Yeah, so we made a few notes. I know it's kind of brief one, but I think there are a lot of connections to we're talking about here, pushing the limits, being proactive, making mistakes. Just see what works, what not, and then you figure this out. Basically, so far, if you play Thor, yeah, specifically. Yeah, I assume you just talking about the situations where you play Thor versus you don't know what to do. Yeah. Specifically in this case, usually it's best if we're trying to just out stuff, if we're trying to out the abilities, it's just technical, yeah, talking the game standpoint. Trying to bait out his abilities and then do something. So we keep our dash, keep our cooldowns, we don't use Awaken, and later you can start doing your own pressure with Awaken once he wasted the mobility, especially his leave. Yeah, if he leaps and you have your mobility, should be okay, but he can also position to not be able to just be affected by any of his abilities because you have more mobility, you have more verticality, and you can abuse that. You can abuse the high guns more. Breaking down the hero-to-hero interaction, yeah, we can do that later. Yeah, I know today is more general topic, but yeah, sure, we'll dive into replays later. What do you do if you get in-dived by the enemy character when you're both running the same character? How do you beat them if they have a better mechanics than you? In some cases, maybe you don't even beat them. Yeah, maybe there's just to realize there's might be some other strategy. Yeah, think is it really aligns with the big team goals? Yeah, so when we're mastering something, we're picking something, we're picking the strategy, we're doing something just depending on the team comp, map, and the enemy team comp as well. And I also think that there's a lot to do about just if you don't know his exact answer now, just go in and try, push your limits, push the limits. You don't have to rely on the same decision. It's just at the end, if you realize the beat you for whatever reason, the skill problem, yeah, then you just need to get better skill set. And to get a better skill set, we need to have all of this setting goals, enough playtime and such. If you have better skill set, you win that, right? So the question is how to get better skill set and just go in and try. Go in and take the duel. Yeah, be proactive, I think. It's more important. The most important. Yeah, is there anything else? Fighting? Alright. Yeah, if you guys don't have any questions, yeah, I think you can ask those later. But again, all the materials, I'm gonna present it to you. And this presentation, and this here, it's something I wrote back in the days. You can also read it. I will send it to you. But I think that's it for today. Just about the consistency. And let's dive deeper into the other topics. Maybe you want to discuss something more. Just how to not tilt, how to just have this positive practice. I think there have been some questions about what do I do? Yeah, the teammates, they just annoy me. I think the best thing to do is always, if you realize something influencing your performance, then for example, if it's comms, then you can mute comms. It's okay. Or you can just try to also think about the goal setting there. What am I practicing for now? This also helps. Thank you, Gefest. You're awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, guys, I'm going to send you all the notes. And any questions later, let me know. But if no questions now, then that's it for today. I see a few people typing. Thanks, coach. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I'm glad to be helpful. Let's dive deeper into other topics. So maybe we can have the same stuff like we did before. I will create the channel and we're just going to type in there what you guys want to discuss based on my experience. Not only as a player, but as a coach too. A lot of several years. So I will be glad to share any specific details. Then bye-bye everyone and good luck. I will see everyone later. I will stop screen sharing and I will upload the recording. Yeah, thanks everybody. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, bye-bye and good luck
Bye.
in your games too.